Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi, I'm Siti Norhuda. So today I'm going to share with you guys the overview towards the entire course of MKAK1013 Environmental Assessment and Management System, taught by our respectful lecturer, Professor IR Dr. Muhammad Fadil bin Matin. So what is EIA? EIA is basically a study to identify, predict, evaluate, and communicate the informations about impacts on proposed project on the environment, as well as to detail out mitigating measures, which is prior to project approval and implementation. Okay, what is the objective of EIA? The first one is to identify and incorporate into project plan appropriate abatement and mitigating measures. Second one is to examine and select the best from project option. The third one is to predict and determine significant residual environmental impact. And the last one is to identify the environmental cost and benefits of the project to the community. So there's a few key components in the EIA report, which is the first one is the screening, scoping, term of reference or TOR, project description, project options, existing environment, impact assessment, mitigation measure, risk and health assessment, as well as the environmental management plan, or we call it as EMP. For the screening is the mechanism to identify whether the proposed project needs EIA or not, which subject to the section of 34A first or second schedule. In screening, we need to understand that the activity involved in the proposed project, and we need to understand in general the potential impacts of the proposed project, as well as the location suitability in the proposed project. So for the EIA requirements, we need to know that there is legal requirement that we need to obey, which is Section 34A and Section 34AA Environmental Quality Act 1974 Amendment 2012. So, to fulfill the requirements in these sections, we need to refer to the list of prescribed activities, which is the EIA Order 2015. Whether the project proposed is falls under the first or the second schedule. If does, they need or the project proponent need to hire somebody that have competence in the EIA preparation, okay, to prepare the EIA report. Next is the scoping. Scoping is the process to set the boundaries and focus of the EIA, which ensuring that the study addresses all environmental concerns of importance to the decision maker. Okay, during the scoping, it must be relevant issues, and the irrelevant issues are eliminated. And the baseline surveys and data collection are focused on the key issues. Adequate time is devoted to issues of specific concerns to regulator. It must be save time, money, and energy of all concerned. So basically, scoping is the key concerns early on to input to project planning and to set the scope of EIA. Next one is the term of reference, also known as the Environmental Scoping Index or ESI, and this is the outcomes from the screening and scoping. Term of reference or TOR is to identify the key concerns associated with the proposed project, and the following is an indicative list of information which shall include in the ESI or TOR. Okay. These are the baseline data that we can use during the scoping, which is the land use, soil and terrain, water quality, social, geology and soil, hydrology, noise and vibration, traffic, climate, air quality, ecology, and so on. Next, we will move to the impact prediction in EIA. Okay, for the impact prediction, we use modeling tools. Okay, model helps to learn about the environment, predict how natural systems will behave under different conditions, and evaluate different management scenarios. So during the class, we are exposed to a few types of modeling tools or applications or software, which are the MATLAB, Screen3, Aloha, Qual2K, CRTN, RMF4, MASMA, ModFlow, which is according to the specification of the quality modeling itself. Next one, before we go to the impact assessment deeper, we need to know the component of the environment. Okay, there are a few component of environment, which are the water quality, air quality, noise pollution, then contamination, schedule waste, and the traffic congestion. So, impact assessment is any potential significance, including those from the site selection, construction, waste collection, transfer, treatment, and disposal, be there on the human environment or to a natural environment. So, there are two phases, which are the site investigation phase, or we call it at the pre-construction phase, the construction phase, and the operational phase. The site investigation phase is the current environment and condition of surroundings. So, the example of the impact during this phase is aquatic life, water quality, and river topography. Next is the construction phase. The impacts that probably happened during this phase was waste generation, high river water turbidity, atmospheric emission, and soil degradation. Last one is operational phase. During the operational phase, it probably happened habitat loss, health and safety problem, water quality deteriorations, and sludge production. Based on the impact that's stated before, so we can come up with the mitigation measure. Mitigation measure is the implementation of measures designed to reduce the undesirable effects of a proposed action on the environment. So there are three types of measures, which is the prevention, compensatory, and the remediation. The prevention, for example, the prevention is to prevent contamination of wells by siting wells at a minimum distance from toilets. Example for compensatory is to plant trees in a new location to compensate for clearing in construction site, and remediation to regrade and replant a borrow pit after construction is finished. During the mitigation measure, we need to know that mitigation must be realistic, must be targeted, must be funded and considered early, which is the preventive measure is usually cheapest and most effective. Next one is the risk and health assessment. Okay, it is the process of assessing the possibilities and consequences of risk events if they are realized. Rational structure for monitoring guidance for decision making about safety issue. So steps involved during risk and health assessment are risk identification, rank the risk, evaluate the risk, and mitigation. The elements of risk assessment are qualitative and quantitative, or we call it as the QRA. This is also applicable to the health assessment. The health impact assessment is the process of estimating the potential impacts of chemical, biological, physical, or social agent on a specified human population system under a specified set of conditions and for a certain time frame. And next, we move to the environmental management plan. Okay, it is to ensure the proper implementation of all environmental considerations recommended for the proposed project in the EIA report. It must be compliance to mitigation measure, compliance to the term of condition, specific emergency response plan, compliance to law and regulation, environmental monitoring, and must have the responsibilities. How to monitor the EMP? We use the impact monitoring, compliance monitoring, and the performance monitoring. Last one is the environmental audit. Environmental audit is to ensure the compliance and self-regulations, which we have three processes, which is the pre-audit, on-site audit, and the post-audit. Audit report shall be prepared for submission to the OE according to the guidelines, which contains audit administrative details, regulatory compliance summary, main report, which is audit findings and recommendation, and as well as the attachment included during the report. So the conclusion, EIA report is an important document that required for proposed project which falls under Section 34A Environmental Quality Act 1974 Amendment 2012. So the cost structures and requirements in the EIA has set a standard to ensure that the proposed project is well developed without leaving severe impact to the environment. That's all from me. Thank you and goodbye everyone. Assalamualaikum.